all, welcome to another Cutting Edge show where we discuss all things COVID-19, health, and wellness and beyond. I'm so happy to have you join us. This program is being brought to you in part by the School of Public Health at the University of Maryland. You have landed on the cutting edge where all things health and wellness, COVID-19 and beyond, we discuss. And we really have open, candid, authentic discussions each time we hit this stage. We got a great lineup for you today. We're going to be talking about coping with the silent storm of mental and emotional trauma. And as you know, this is a challenge not only in this country but around the world. And so we want to hit it right on and head on. And we got the panel to do this. We have Dr. Chippewa Thomas. He is a professor and director of faculty engagement at Auburn University. We have Dr. Rashida Jones. She's a licensed clinical psychologist and owner of the Catalyst Counseling Associates, LLC. We have Mr. Royce Kennebrew, who is an author, educator, and DEI trainer. And of course, we have one of our very own, Sandra Jenkins, owner of the Naturalist Salon and certified community health worker. We have been doing this for a long time, but I don't do this by myself. I do this with a brother from another mother, a friend of mine, but we're colleagues as well, but we're friends because it takes friendship to make things work for long terms. And Dr. Thomas and I have been knowing each other for 30 years, but we've been doing this for close to 3. Every episode has been with you in mind to make sure that we are putting information that you can use that can give life and preserve life. So without further ado, let me introduce my dear co-host. He is Dr. Stephen B. Thomas. We call him Dr. T amongst these parts. He's a professor at the University of Maryland School of Public Health and director of the Center of Health Equity right there at the University of Maryland. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming my co-host, Dr. Stephen Thomas. We call him Dr. T. Hey, Dr. T, how you doing?
Hey, Mayor, it's always good to be with you. And, you remind me when I picked up the phone and called you, it had maybe been 15 years before we had actually talked and seen each other. And you know what? We picked right up where we left off.
That's what friends should do. I mean, you don't have to talk to someone every day, to remain friends. And that's when you know it's authentic, when it lasts, right?
And here it is with no money, just a recognition that our people were suffering, that we started this whole initiative. We had the town halls.
Absolutely.
And that has evolved into the cutting edge. We have over 100 shows under our belt now.
I don't know how many, but it's certainly over 100 shows. I mean, that's on the low end side of this, man. We've done a lot, but every show has been fun to do. I have been enlightened by each and every show we've done, and we've had just an incredible array of panelists to have joined us over the years now. And so I'm excited about this show. Dr. T, I mean, we are right at the cutting edge because people are talking about mental health amongst adolescents, particularly. When you isolate children in their formative years, I think the impact is exacerbated because they're still trying to develop. Adults may have a little more resiliency, right?
That's right.
But those fragile children, I think they're really catching it, and we need to be mindful and intentional about assessing where they are and helping them through this process.
Well, Mayor, one of the things that we've done is listen to the lived experience of the people that we meet in the barbershops and salons. And one of the storylines in our barbershop storybook, and we're going to bring that on the show here. We're using a graphic novel to bring the voices to the people. There's a storyline where there's a little girl in the book who is being bullied because she's wearing a mask and she got vaccinated. And that's also happening, this polarization that's going on out in the country. Some of us are going to walk in the room protecting ourselves with a mask and then be looked at like we're a pariah.
Mm-hmm.
Hold the line. Hold the line. This is about saving ourselves. And increasingly, as I've kind of moved around and watched, Mayor, I'll be in places where more Black people, more people of color have a mask on.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're getting the message out there.
Yeah.
We need to keep the conversation going. The pandemic is not over. I love the president.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. President, the pandemic is not over. And we're going to save ourselves right here on the cutting edge.
You know, Dr. T, you are right that we're saving ourselves, but in a real way, we're saving other people as well, right? We're saving people who don't even know to save themselves. Because it doesn't matter your ideology or your political affiliation. COVID don't consider that.
Oh, no.
And so as we wear masks, we're not just wearing the mask to protect ourselves, we're wearing the mask to protect other people.
That's right.
Our loved ones and people to whom we come in contact, people we may not even know. We want to save them, in particular people who have comorbidities and pre-existing illnesses that are more vulnerable, right? We want to make sure that we protect them as well, and we don't know who they are, so we want to protect them as we go through this process. You know, man, let me tell you something, man. We got we do this right here, but we can't do this without the people who are behind the scene. We call it the team behind the scene, headed up by our technical director, Meg Jordan. She's assisted by Maggie Daly. Saraya Khan is our social media and communication guru, and of course, sound designer by Elijah Pugh Jr. That's the people who make what you see on the cutting edge come to life. It brings it to you, and so we are so appreciative and
Absolutely.
just love our team. So you know, we got the best team ever. So we're so happy to have them.
That's an original soundtrack. I see you bouncing to it.
Oh man, oh absolutely, man. We you know, I can't hardly keep it. You know, it's we used to say at church. I couldn't keep it to myself. You know, I could, like Jeremiah said, it was like fire, right? Shut up in my bones, right? So that's that's what happens, Dr. T. All right. Well, let me tell you something. You don't have to worry about where you can find us. You can find us anywhere on the social media platforms. We on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and more. So we are trying to place ourselves out there in multiple spaces so that you won't have any difficulty in locating us. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to all of the things that we're doing, because what we're doing is going to be a benefit. It's going to be entertaining, but informative. This is going to be infotainment.
There
That's
we go.
what we're going to have, right? Right. So we're going to really have a good time. Don't forget, you can subscribe to our newsletter. And of course, it comes out every week, even weeks when we're not on the show. We put our newsletter out. So you will always get the newsletter. And because we do it electronically, we also give you previous shows and vignettes of shows that we've had in the past. And so it's just really wonderful. It speaks to really good information about all the things that's happening, COVID-19, health and wellness and beyond. So it's just really a good publication, and that's done in-house by the team behind the scene.
That's right.
And you know, again, Dr. T, you know, I told you that that we had a great show lined up, right? I told you that, right?
Yes.
Right. And the first person I'm going to bring up, let me tell you this. I met this young lady when she was a undergrad at Tuskegee University. Her name is Dr. Chapeo Thomas. And Dr. Thomas was such a bright-eyed, just serious person back then.
Okay.
I had her on the You Got the Power show, man, way back then. I don't know how far back, but it was a minute. and I was so impressed with her. She's now a professor and director of the faculty engagement at the Auburn University. She's been doing her work for a long time, 20 years of progressive community counseling, education and engagement leadership experience. She's been doing it. She's the kind of person that is a doer, right? She's very clear and she's very committed to what she does. And whatever Dr. Thomas does, it's done with the perfection of the Booker T. Washington. That Booker T. Washington said that it was about service, right?
Yeah.
And excellence. And so when Dr. Thomas came to Tuskegee, service and excellence got married, and they living happily ever after. Dr. Chapewa Thomas, ladies and gentlemen, please give us some snaps as we bring.
Yeah, that's how we bring you to the stage.
Hey, Dr. Thomas, unmute yourself, please.
Good afternoon. I'm so grateful to be able to be here.
Absolutely, we are so happy. I'm bubbling with pride because, Dr. T, sometimes you don't get an opportunity to tell people how much you love them and how proud you are of them.
Yes.
I absolutely adore Dr. Thomas, man, and I'm so proud of her, seeing her growth over the years, and then see where she is now, and also know that her growth is a continuous one. So, Dr. Thomas, how you doing? How things going over in Auburn University and down at Auburn?
Doing very well. Career's going well. Certainly all of the engagement with the community, students, faculty, staff, alums, but more importantly, the people who are out there on the front lines doing the work. I have the very fortunate privilege to be able to be living my dream through my career. And the fact that this is 30 years, this year marks 30 years that I've been in the state of Alabama. I was born in East Africa, but grew up in Los Angeles, California. And I really am living the dream. And grateful to be a part of the discussion at the cutting edge. I appreciate the invitation.
Absolutely.
Mayor, and it's a pleasure to meet you, Dr. Thomas. No relation, but then again, you never know, right? You never know. The warmth of other suns, Isabel Wilkerson talked about that great migration. You never know how we're connected. And so I'm just so happy to see you here and to know that you're at Auburn University with the spirit that the mayor just described coming out of Tuskegee. And Auburn is a land grant institution. And I don't know if the people fully appreciate what it means. University of Maryland is a land grant. That was set in motion by Abraham Lincoln. Can you just say a little bit about the value of being at a land grant institution?
I sure can, and happy to share that. I actually taught honors course a couple of semesters ago to some undergraduate students about the land grant heritage of institutions in the United States. And I could probably go on and on about that, but Auburn is actually the oldest land grant, but it's not the only. We actually have Auburn as the 1862 land grant set forward by the Morrill Act, of course, that was inspired by President Lincoln, but also through the Hatch Act and the Smith-Lever Act here in the United States that gave way to the extension system and some others that really gave us an emphasis on giving access to education to all. And of course, at a time in the United States when not everybody had that access, which is one of the reasons why I'm so very proud to be an alum of one of the other two land grants, the 1890 land grant, which is Tuskegee University. The other, of course, to the north of us, Alabama A&M, Agricultural and Technical State University, up in the north. But very grateful that I get to be a part of helping folks continue to have access to education at a time when education is indeed one of the great equalizers of our lives, because information and force and knowledge is power.
That's right.
Absolutely. Man, I'm so happy. I'm so glad to be. I'm Dr. Thomas. I'm so happy to have you with me, hanging out with you. Good gracious of life. All right. Our next guest, backed by popular demand, Dr. Rashida Jones. She is a licensed clinical psychologist and owner of the Catalyst Counseling Associates, LLC. She's been with us before. She is received her BS degree in psychology from Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond, Virginia. And of course, her coming back to the cutting edge is a testament of the fact that while she was here, she blew the roof off the house, right? I mean, with her authentic conversation, just the way that she's able to break things down where it makes sense. We are so appreciative for Dr. Jones to be hanging out with us again. And she is a member of our family, so she can always come and hang out with us. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming again, back by popular demand, Dr. Rashida Jones.
Come on now.
Hey, Dr. Jones, how you doing?
Hi. Hello. So happy to be here. Thank you for having me again. I am thrilled to be here this evening.
Yeah. You know, we were talking about, and I don't want to get too far into the conversation, but we were talking earlier about the critical nature of mental and emotional health and how many people are challenged in those spaces and sometimes unknowingly, that they think that they are just kind of going through some stuff and they don't know that what they're going through is altering them in many ways, physically, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, right? And in many of their other parts. And so what we want to do is kind of unpack that today. And we couldn't think of a person better to help us unpack that than you, Dr. Jones. And so thank you so much for what you do and for your willingness. Every time we've asked you if you could make a way to come, you've done that. And we don't take that lightly. We are so appreciative to you for that. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here. Mental health is my passion. So I definitely want to share as much knowledge as I can to help all of the viewers that'll be watching tonight.
You know, Dr. Jones, I saw just a little piece in your bio about ethical care for people of color, free of what? Free of bias.
Yeah.
Just a little thumbnail. What does that mean?
It's important for when somebody is finally ready to go get help, because it's very hard for someone to make that initial appointment with a therapist or to say, listen, I haven't been able to sleep, or I've been feeling sad, I've been having some dark thoughts. When they finally make the effort to go and see someone, you want to feel like you're with someone who is culturally competent. You want someone that understands the nuances of your ethnic group, of the historical perspective, the racial trauma that may be a part if you're a person of color. So that's what my training was about, was ensuring that clinicians, at that time I was working for a long-term care facility. So this was clinicians all across the country that were providing care to elderly patients. And you want to make sure that they're sensitive to the cultural nuances and competent and ethical in the care that they're providing.
Well, I can't thank you enough, because during the pandemic, we saw how people who were elderly, people who were frail, and having people say somehow they could be sacrificed in the name of the economy, that scared me. That's why I'm so happy you're here to make sure that we value all lives.
All lives, absolutely. Yeah.
Thanks, Dr. Jones. So good to have you. Absolutely. Well, when speaking of backed by popular demand, well, this guy I tell the Dr. T, brother from another mother. He truly is that kind of brother. He He hails from Detroit, Michigan. His brother has run for Congress, and he has really honed in on the notion of training, particularly in implicit bias, and he's an educator. He was educated in elementary school. I mean, this brother is, he's a coach. I mean, he recognizes that the children are our future, right?
That's right. That's right.
And but he's an author, man. He has a new book out, and we're going to give him an opportunity to talk about it because it speaks right to what we're talking about and how our young people are in a crisis situation, and if we are not mindful of how to help them navigate through these spaces, we can lose a lot of people. And so I'm so elated to welcome and to bring forth to the stage a dear friend and brother, my man, Royce Kennebrew. Hey, man.
Come on, bring him on up. Bring him on up. Bring the brother up.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me this evening. I am really excited about the conversation that we are going to have because it is so timely, so important as you look at the tapestry of what is going on with increased violence around the country, increased domestic violence, suicide with adolescent and with adults. So this is a timely conversation. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And we're going to talk about since I see the book back there, I see that's what you call product placement, Dr. T. my brother, ain't no shame in his game. I'm telling you.
No.
Tell us about the book we see, Doc.
Well, it is, the subtitle is How Social and Emotional Learning Can Address Trauma, Decrease Violence, and Improve Struggling Schools, because young people, in my opinion, is where the rubber meets the road. And if their mental health needs aren't being met, then we are creating a generation of young people, particularly in our community, that aren't going to have the necessary tools and skills to be able to, first of all, to compete, and also just to be able to maintain themselves in a world where you see these different divisive type of discussions being had. So I wrote the book to address some issues that, as a former 4th and 5th and 7th and 8th grade teacher, dean of students, assistant principal, man, you see some stuff down there with the babies. You like, man, we got to deal with this now, because if you get to be an adult, we're going to have a problem.
Right. You got it, man. Go ahead, Dr. T.
Well, I was just noticing in your bio that you've trained NASA. Okay. You've trained the astronauts. Those people believe in science, but you're coming in with this anthropological, emotional. How do they manage? How do they respond to you? These hardcore scientists, these astronauts.
Absolutely. NASA is one of the agencies. Also, one of the agencies is the FDA. And so when you go in and you speak to scientists, you have to come in, and my colleagues that are on the panel tonight, you have to come in with the data first. You come in with the data and you talk about how in social and emotional learning, you'll see that engineers, when they're at the early stages of their career, one may have high social and emotional learning competencies and the other one doesn't. And as they start to move up in their career, the engineer, the science, the math person with the high social and emotional competency will rise in his career higher and faster than the one that doesn't. So letting those people know that deal with the ones and the zeros and the Pythagorean theorem and all of that good stuff, that information of being compassionate, of being empathetic, of being able to manage powerful emotions, of being able to work on teams and to be able to responsibly make ethical and moral decisions is important inside and outside the office. So,
wow.
Yeah. Powerful.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
gotta get that book. We gotta get that book.
Absolutely.
You see that
The
QR
ghetto
code?
grave dodger. I mean, can he be more explicit than that? I mean, that's what where the cows can get it.
There you
Dr.
go.
The cows can get it.
We have one of our wellness warriors that's
Oh,
gonna come and
wellness
hang out,
warriors.
who's going to hang out with us. Now, she's been with us. I don't even know when she started, but she's been with us the entire time. She is a committed person. You can tell based on the commitment to what we have been doing and the many iterations of our programming to include shots at the shop and other things we've done, the colors of COVID and all this stuff. When we were able to bring her in, she's been with us and she stayed with us. She is the owner of the Naturalist Salon and a certified community health worker. Her name is Sandra Jenkins. Beautiful smile. If Sandra smiles, the sun don't even have to come out because she's gonna brighten up the world. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming one of our very own, a wellness warrior, Sandra Jenkins. Hey,
Come on, bring
Sandra,
her up.
how
Bring
you
her up.
doing?
Snap her up.
Yes,
snap
good evening. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so very much, Mayor Neal, for introducing me in such a loving spirit, because I know it's real. It's
Absolutely.
real. Absolutely. I'm looking at the panel here tonight, and you guys mirror the people that sit in my chair.
But me and now
Doesn't matter how much hair you have.
Well, yeah, with the omission. The omission.
you got three of us.
Yes.
We're
You're
a little difficult now. Hey, I
Right.
tell you, if you can do something with our hair,
Of
you're not just you're a magician.
We're getting our eyebrows arched. That's what it
We have
is.
scalp care at our salon.
That,
So
you know what?
everyone
That
has
would be wonderful. That's
Yes.
something people hadn't talked about with scalp care.
absolutely.
I think we need to be able to have that.
Well, that
you
is the foundation of where healthy hair starts, isn't it? So
Never thought about that. Wow.
absolutely.
That makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah. So, my observation being that this panel encompass the clients that I serve daily, most hairstylists and barbers mirror as unofficial therapists in regards to the silent storm of mental emotional well-being. When one gets their hair done and being pampered can be incredibly therapeutic on one's human body.
Mhm.
So moreover, based upon my personal experience, and I will also vouch for my wellness warrior colleagues that are on tonight, that everything seems to come up when someone is getting their hair done. And more interesting, some clients are even willing to act on your advice.
Mm.
So that's what makes what we do so much more meaningful. So to be that advocacy and beautifying someone literally works hand in hand and are very important for human connectedness and mental health.
Yeah.
You
Go ahead, Dr. T.
just real quick, because I wanted the audience here to know that she didn't start out as a community health worker certified. She came in and over the arc of our journey together, got inspired, found out what you have to do in the state of Pennsylvania, did the training, and now is a certified community health worker. But she didn't leave behind all the skills she had before.
Mm-hmm. Look like Dr. T froze on me, but we got him. He's gonna come back in a minute. In fact, if you all can just pull him for a second, and then we'll come back. Let's talk to Dr. Jones. I want to start with you a second, because we said that we wanted to unpack this whole notion of mental and emotional trauma and how to cope with it. I want you to kind of define that for us, because many people don't know what we're talking about. So if you could put it, just in layman's terms, what are we talking about when we're talking about mental and emotional trauma?
So there's a lot of types of trauma, and it's definitely good to kind of break it down at the basic level of what trauma looks like, because trauma can be something that you experience yourself. It could be some sort of verbal abuse from a parent, from a spouse. It could be, which would include belittling. It would include insults, verbal aggression. There could also be physical abuse, which could look like domestic violence. It could look like child abuse, and feeling unsafe because of the person that's perpetuating the violence. Obviously, there's sexual abuse. There's so many types of traumas. Those are interpersonal types of trauma, but then there's trauma that we can experience going through life. We've seen police brutality. We've seen if in certain areas, people may be experiencing community violence where it's not safe in your neighborhood. There's gunshots, there's constant street violence going on. It could be health scares, a trauma where you've maybe almost lost your life due to a health concern or someone close to you has. So the thing with trauma is it could happen to you as an individual, but it could also be something that maybe you've witnessed trauma happening to someone close to you, someone that you love. That could also be very traumatizing to you, to see trauma happening to someone close to you or be a witness to an act that's occurring close by. And then even learning of trauma, we've now found, even if you're not there and you didn't witness it, you can still experience secondary trauma by hearing about a family member that was involved in gang violence, or a sudden death, or some sort of attack, car accident, any number of things that could happen. And so then what ends up happening is, based on the trauma and based on the individual, because there's a lot of factors in whether or not a person develops a trauma disorder or starts to have anxiety or depression based on what they've experienced. It has a lot to do with how the person appraises the stress, how they look at the stress, because we can have this like primary appraisal where we look at a situation that happens. So say there's a school shooting, okay? And your initial reaction is, does this involve my child's school? How close is this? Is this in my neighborhood? And then once you realize maybe my children are safe, then there's the secondary kind of appraisal where you're like, okay, my children are safe, but this is still very scary to have happened in my neighborhood or in my community or what have you. And so then there's the responses that our body does that we don't even realize, where we either, if we're in a dangerous situation and our body appraises that we're having a threat come against us, then we can either fight the threat, like literally if someone's trying to rob you and you're fighting to get your purse back or fighting to get free from someone that's trying to overpower you, or if it's you may flee, try to run. A lot of times we see fawning, which is a response where like if a child is being abused, or say they have a parent that's abusing substances and they're not sure how this parent's going to be today, if they're going to be explosive or not, it may cause a child to try to be a people pleaser and just be quiet or silent to avoid getting abused. So there's a lot of different responses that people can have, and it all kind of starts with what we're exposed to.
That's powerful. I certainly want to have more of this conversation because it is so important that people understand the multiple ways by which we can be traumatized and how we internalize trauma, oftentimes unknowingly. Dr. Thomas, you have been working with young people as well, although you deal with the faculty and staff and students at Auburn University, but you also dealt with students that are in public schools and that kind of thing. How do a teacher or parent recognize if their children have been traumatized? Is there a way we can assess that, or how do we evaluate what's going on with the people around us?
Well, I want to echo all of the things that Dr. Jones has just said. As a counselor educator and someone who has worked in not just public schools, but in community mental health, there's a lot of things that we have seen that people aren't necessarily mindful of. And so it's one of the reasons why this discussion is so very important for all of us. And Um, I want to share just in response that one of the things that I teach, I'm actually teaching counselor education pedagogy this semester at Auburn, and in preparing future counselor educators to work in community settings and school settings, is that relationship first is really important for conveying information about trauma and experiences, because without trust, people won't necessarily talk to you. And so one of the things that I've learned, not just to help parents, but to help teachers, is to approach people in general, not just children, with cultural humility, and also with a trauma focus in mind.
Dr. Thomas, that just sounds so good to me. Cultural humility. Could you please put that where the cows can get it? I mean,
Sure.
It just rolled off your tongue so good. It
Absolutely.
was just, I just love that. Go, just put it where the cows can get it.
It's
Right.
akin to what Dr. Jones just talked about in terms of why it's good for people to seek out culturally competent practitioners, people who not only are trained, but who have the awareness and professional acumen to work with people from a perspective that respects and empowers their lived experience. And for most of us, that's from a cultural, not just a social, emotional, and psychological, but it's from a cultural perspective. And so I would even submit with working with children, adolescents, or people at any age, adults in particular, that we should keep in mind that we're all interacting with the world, and the world is interacting with us. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes we don't think about the fact that the people we encounter have lived experiences that are often traumatic. And so I think that one thing that we can borrow from the profession, counseling profession, psychological services, that is indeed focused on sort of, I guess, or centers on principles of being trauma informed, is that we should consider, okay, is the person safe? Are the children or the individuals coming in contact with the children trustworthy? Are they transparent? Mm-hmm. Is there peer support, family support? I think about folks in the pandemic who created sister circles. You all talked about town halls, but sister circles, and we use Zoom to stay connected to one another and to create a sense of community. But collaboration and mutuality, or mutual benefit, being able to pour into each other, but also to empower and to validate choice. Another key component, I think, of a trauma-informed approach to anything that we do, including community work, is that we're, again, culturally, historically, and gender mindful of, again, the lived experiences of people. And I think that those general principles really help us to see people, just like I'm sure when we look in the mirror, we see ourselves as having lived experiences that often, or it can certainly be difficult, and that oftentimes need some type of intervention and assistance. But first, knowledge, or even the acknowledgement and the validation that lived experience is real.
Right.
Mayor.
Yeah, go ahead, Dr. T.
Yeah, I hope I'm back. And
no, you back. You back by popular demand too. when you went away, people say, "Oh no, what happened to Dr. T?" I say, "No, wait, give him a second. He's coming back."
But Sandra Jenkins described how the stylists and the barbers, in some ways, are in that role. Mm-hmm. Okay. And yet they may not have the kind of professional training that our counselors have here. But in her bio, she highlighted the fact that one of the skills she has is not to say anything, just to listen.
Right.
Can our two counselors say something to Sandra Jenkins about the importance of just not judging, not giving it, but listening? while she's doing somebody's hair and they're unpacking the trauma or whatever it is, and she's listening. Counselors, why is that important what Sandra's doing? Rashida, you can go first.
Yeah, sure. It's important to, one of the basic tenets of therapy and counseling is that you want to be able to give the person a safe space to be able to share what they're experiencing. So part of the whole cultural competency and the rapport that you would have as a stylist with your client is that they would feel safe. They're trusting you to do their hair. It's a very relaxing kind of setting, and you're literally letting your hair down. And it's nice to have someone that could just listen, that could just listen and just hear you out, because a lot of times that's all people need is a chance to just express themselves and kind of vent and have that catharsis. So being able to have a non-judgmental space where they feel like they can confide is really key for people. And I think that's a lot of times why people don't go into therapy is because they feel like they're going to be judged. They're concerned, especially in with peoples of color. There's this sense of distrust, rightly so, with the medical system. And so being able to come through the salon space is a lot less threatening than going and making an appointment to see someone professionally that was going to give you a diagnosis and bill your insurance, and now it's on your record. And a lot of people are concerned about that kind of stigma and paper trail. So I think it's really good when you can have that, a trained stylist be able to provide that unconditional positive regard that a lot of therapists do in terms of their technique of helping their clients explore their problems.
And Dr. Thomas, we learned how Sandra Jenkins now is a certified community health worker. Might there be some training that our stylists and barbers can take to get them involved in mental health first aid, or something along those lines? Dr. Thomas?
Absolutely. I think that lay professionals have existed in our communities. Some of us call them, of course, paraprofessionals, but in the beauty, hair, self-care, self-preservation industry, for aestheticians or people who are massage therapists, all of them are creating or facilitating services that are incredibly intimate. And I think one of the things that those folks really do for us as a service, of course, that we pay for in listening, is to give us an opportunity to really just relax, honestly. And okay, quite frankly, how often in this world of work and busyness and emails and contending with our workspaces and our lives and raising our children, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, do we ever feel truly listened to? And I think that that's just something very valuable about not only providing a service, but giving someone a space to be able to just be heard. And I think that in and of itself can just be extremely empowering and do even more than the service that they're paying for, because they're really seen, especially in a very vulnerable state. I know when I get my hair braided, I kind of look differently than I do when I'm, but the fact that I can talk to the woman who's braiding my hair and who's touching my hair, and there's a bond there.
Yes.
That again can be extremely therapeutic. And I think, again, very valuable for those of us who do take the time and understand how important it is to take the time to have services like that done in the care of oneself.
Absolutely.
You know, Royce, you know, the brothers may have a whole different dynamic, but I want all the folks here to give some snaps to Sandra Jenkins, because she has been completed her mental health first aid training.
That's wonderful. That's fabulous. That's good. That's good.
Thank you.
You know, let me go to Russ, because I want to bring in the gender differentiation, right? Because young men are reared and orientated differently than our young ladies. They say when I was growing up, they say girls were sugar and spice and everything nice. Boys was rags and snails and puppy dog tails.
They did that down south too.
Oh man, yeah, man. It did. Then when the girls cry, I mean, would fall and hurt themselves and cry, they go, oh baby, who? And then when a boy falls and cries, skin himself all up, skin himself up. Now I tell you, I go back, right? Get boys don't cry, men don't cry, right? And so we have them to suppress their emotions, right? Natural emotions. I mean, they hurting just like the little girl, right? But their response has to be different based on gender, right? I want to know, how does that translate into them suppressing and not having the emotional intelligence, right, necessary to understand that there may be some vulnerabilities there that need to be exposed and assisted in order to have them to balance themselves out mentally, emotionally, psychologically, etc.
Absolutely. I think that boys, and then in particular, boys from our community, they are acculturated and they believe certain things based on the environment around them, the gender wise. And then I think our community plays a part into it as well, where they aren't as adept at being aware of their emotions, being able to manage their emotions, being able to talk about their emotions. And it does them a disservice, because when you're not able to process, when you're not able to talk about these emotions, I've heard about research that says that when you are in that fight or flight mode, and then just the ability of being able to say, I feel this way, it takes you out of that fight or flight mode and brings you back to the frontal lobe area where you're able to reason and process. So I think that, and one of the reasons why as an educator now, I go in with that unconditional positive regard, and I attempt to help my boys talk about, and also to be able to process and to give them skills to manage their emotions, because I think they're at a deficit. And that deficit, I think, is one of the reasons that when they get into conflict situations, that they are unable to process those emotions and manage their behaviors, where it causes situations where you see people losing life, being harmed, being incarcerated, and the other difficult things that happen to some of the Black boys and Black men in our community. It's because I don't think that they have been trained to be able to process like young ladies have.
Mhm.
Wow, that's powerful. What I want to do is let's get a pulse so we can do that. And then while we're getting the pulse, we're going to bring up a few new people, and then we're going to have the public health minute, and we're going to move on and bring on some more people. But I am so elated to have this conversation in such a rich and authentic and clear conversation about the trauma associated with mental and emotional trauma and health. Okay. All right. Let's Dr. T, tell them about tell them about how to do let's do an emotional check.
Just for my new guests here, one of the things that we do every show, we want you to think about a word that best reflects how you're feeling right now, this moment in the pandemic. We're still in the pandemic. And write that word down in the chat. For those of you out in the social media space, you can use the Q&A box. And our team behind the scenes is going to build a cloud. And for the next 36 that you can, just put them on in there as fast as you can and keep typing while we're talking. And man, what a conversation we have going here, because you know what? There are few spaces that we have for the mental health conversation. It's sometimes as a conversation starter when you bring it up. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if one of the ways that we can have that conversation in our community is around that fight and flight, is around how do you manage stress, mm-hmm. And helping people do that emotional regulation. Yeah, I'm in an academic institution as well. And you know what, Mayor, I have seen some of my colleagues of a different hue on the job express the whole range of their emotions. I've seen them get angry. I've seen them get mad. I've seen them stomp out of a room. They still keep their job. And brothers and sisters,
Don't you do that now. Don't you?
that's what I'm saying. And because they can express the
don't
whole
think you can
range-
do that. Hey, Dr. T, don't try that. Don't try that.
I learned that. But I think because they can express the whole range of their emotion on the workspace, it matters differently. And we, male or female, end up suppressing that in the workspace. And then that may carry off when we're not in the workspace. And I'm hoping these counselors today can help us understand how we do that and not be the angry Black woman, not do that and be the angry Black man. All those are things we're trying to avoid in these professional and these workspaces, and whether you're wherever you're working, to get tagged and stereotyped. Keep those words coming.
I know Dr. Thomas has some thoughts on that, because obviously she's doing development for staff development. That's what she does, and so there is this perception, real or otherwise, that certain people of certain ethnic groups are not given the latitude to express themselves. Even women
That's right.
who express themselves or are more assertive in certain areas are not looked upon favorably, where others may say that, well, that's okay for them, but not okay for you. We even talk about, I could be honest. I mean, if you had a Black president do what I've seen one of the presidents do,
Don't even start.
Come
on now.
Black folk would be saying, "Hey, man, come on down here. Messed up. You know what I mean?"
Dr. Thomas is using sign, and we understand exactly what you mean.
Yeah. Let me bring up our resident gynecologist, Dr. Carol Ritter. She's Dr. Ritter has gotten more cultural competence from this show. Hey, Dr. Ritter, how you doing?
I'm doing well. And they call me a bully in the OR when I ask for something, but for a man, they call it authoritative. So no, I
Right.
totally get that. Yeah. I mean, it's like different, but I want to, this has been wonderful. I've been thinking about the children when it comes to mental health, because my medical assistant got called from her school this week and had to leave the office because her son had such severe neck pain that he couldn't hold his head up straight. I mean, this is a son I've talked to you about this 12-year-old before, who wrote me a very sweet letter when he saw that I was upset in the office. So she left and she went, and then he's one of these people pleasers, that you were talking about, Dr. Thomas. He's a gentle soul, and this torticollis is really what it is. It's a reaction to stress. It's a physical reaction to stress. She took him to the doctor. She took him to patient first, and they were like, "Oh, just give him some heat and some ibuprofen, and he'll be fine." But really, the underlying problem is emotional stress. His grandmother's dying, and it's a pandemic, and he's got a lot of stress. And I just want to also mention that the U.S. Preventive Health Task Service recently came out in October and said that we should evaluate children for anxiety. But this data is lagging, because this data that they came out with was from 2018 and 2019. It wasn't even now. So you're on the cutting edge here at the barbershops and the stylist shops. You're on the cutting edge of what's happening with mental health now, not what's happening with evidence-based medicine that's published years later. I mean, we're really behind, we're behind the game. You guys are ahead of the game, you know, in the barber chairs.
Come on.
So
Thank you,
thank you.
Dr. Ritter, we
can
love you
lead the
so
way.
much. Dr. Ritter has been with us from forever. So
Right.
all his family. I mean, this is family. I'm bring up Dr. Sharon Cooper, and then we're going to go to you, Meg, for
And
the public health minute.
and the
We got the cloud ready?
Yeah,
We got the
bring
cloud
it.
ready?
Yeah, there we go.
Let's do the cloud, and then we're going to bring up Dr. Cooper, and then we're going to go to Meg. Look
All right,
at there.
What you see?
Blessed, supported, right? Empowered, challenged, inspired, engaged, caring, loving, excited, hopeful, grateful, thankful, supportive again, well-being, careful, passionate, committed, fired up, freer, honored, right? But look at that, supported and blessed, right? Tends to win the day. And when you feel supported, then you are blessed.
Wow.
And so we are so appreciative of that. That was excellent. Thank you all so much for helping us do that. That was our collective feelings about where we are now.
You got that right. You want to snap
Bring Dr.
ourselves.
Cooper up for a second, and Dr. Sharon Cooper has been with us as well for a month and a Sunday, a month of Sundays, they say. But hey, Dr. Cooper, how are you doing today?
Good evening. I am doing well. I'm doing well. This has just been fantastic as always. I walk away with an abundance of knowledge. But again, I have to speak back to what our stylists and barbers are doing. They're creating that conduit, that segue for people to access what we call important. And as we talk about this topic of mental health, and we're now in an era where the stigma is easing away and that needle is turning in another direction, now we have to look at access, and that's the key. Getting folks to be able to access that care. And how does that start? When I go to get my hair done. Okay. And if I don't have everything that as far as knowledge, I can direct you to the appropriate person. And especially when you talked about it earlier, Mayor, co-occurring conditions, then that really intensifies the need for such services and having what we call health advocates in the community. This is so important, having mental health first aiders out there, that SAMHSA has sponsored various programs locally and nationally to educate the people who have that direct contact in the community, to allow them to present the information, to connect them to the appropriate services at the appropriate time. So I cannot go any further than to applaud all the work that's being done, not only at the academic level, because we all know, you can build these beautiful buildings, brick and mortar, but how do we get people engaged? And that's what's so insightful and innovative what Dr. Thomas has done, along with the stylists and barbers. They're bringing those services to the community where people feel comfortable, that dialogue is there, where trust is already there. And it's a safe environment for communication, exchange of information and not misinformation. So I just, as I say, each time I am a part of all these particular town hall meetings, I walk away with just wonderful knowledge that I'm able to utilize in everything I do, whether it's applied research, whether it's diversion programs that I'm working with, whether it's community concerns, rural, programs that are looking to address priorities. So I thank you all. This has just been a blessing and amazing experience.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cooper. And we talked about it earlier, Dr. T, when we were talking about trusted information centers.
That's right.
That's exactly what our barbershops and our hair salons are. These are trusted information centers. And so therefore, if we are able to, place the requisite medicine, the IV is already in.
Right. Hey, Mayor.
You see? We got the IV in. They gonna go get their hair did, so
Mayor,
Go ahead.
Something you said was so important about these trusted information centers. It has been through this process that we have transformed shops into trusted information centers. So for the audience out there, not every barbershop and beauty salon is a trusted information center, but those who have come through our rapid response training, those who have become wellness warriors, those who are part of the learning collaborative, you can too become a trusted information center. So if you're listening to us out there in cyberspace, follow our links, join our community, get your staff trained up, and become a wellness warrior beauty shop or salon and barbershop, and display it in a way that lets your community know we got your back, community. You care and receive COVID mitigation services, tests, whatever you, but also your life.
Yeah. You know, Dr. T, I think that the more you move your hand, that's when it slows up. So if you just kind of become less animated,
all right.
I think we can keep you focused, man, you know, because you slow,
All right. I got it.
All right. Okay. All right. Let's go to public health minute. Meg Jordan, public health minute.
Here we go. You're muted, Meg.
Muted.
Oh, it's the first time that's happened. Good evening,
That's what I'm saying.
everybody.
Out of over
they
years.
got me. Yeah. All right. Good evening, everybody. So we're going to run the numbers. At this point, in the past 2 years, we've had 96.8 million cases of COVID. We've had 1,060,000 deaths in this country from COVID-19. Just so you know, globally, it's about 6.5 million people we've lost in the world. 226 million Americans have their initial vaccination. So that's those first 2 doses of a Pfizer or Moderna. That's your Novavax or your Johnson & Johnson. And then 110 million Americans have gotten their first booster doses. Next, please, Maggie. This is where we are in the COVID community levels. So take a look at where you live. If the level is green, people can consider wearing masks in closed spaces. In medium, people who are high risk need to have their masks back on in public and in closed spaces. And if your community is at high risk, everyone should have their masks back on. And please consider wearing respiratory protection. That's your N95s and your KN95s. Next, please, Maggie. So where are we in terms of vaccine coverage? This is where we are for those first 2 doses. So we're going to talk about boosters today, but before you get your boosters, you need to get your initial vaccines. So if you look at the Northern West and the Midwest, we are unfortunately lagging a little bit behind. It looks like the Northeast has a lot more coverage than in the South and the West. Also, Puerto Rico is doing a great job as well. So next, please, Maggie. So let's talk about boosters. When we talk about the COVID-19 race to the vaccine finish, you can, depending on your age, you can get up to 4 shots or 2 shots if you do a 2-shot regimen, and then 2 boosters. Next, please, Maggie. So where are we? 20.1% of the US has not even started to get vaccinated at all. 79.9% of the US has gotten 1 shot, but if you notice, not everybody got their second. So about 11 did not get a second shot. So 68.1 is considered fully vaccinated. Of those people, half have gotten a booster, that second booster. Sorry, it says second shot. Or sorry, 49% of second shot. So half the people who got their vaccines have gotten their first booster. And then only 40% of people 50 plus have gotten that second booster. We're coming into the winter. So that's why these boosters are really going to be important again. Next, please, Maggie. Because what we're seeing from Europe is that there's already another wave. And so we are anticipating another wave in the US of COVID. That'll be wave 8. So what we're going to talk about are the updated boosters. These are made specifically to address Omicron and Delta. So they're responding to the fact that the COVID disease is changing, right? Please go get your second booster, this new bivalent booster. It keeps your immune system updated to the disease that's going around now, because the diseases that are going around now are all types of Omicron. It can take a few weeks to get and build immunity after you get your second shot. So get your booster before Halloween so that you are ready for Thanksgiving, you are ready for Christmas, you are ready for New Year's, because wave 8 is coming. If you are 5 and up, you get the booster. You can get the booster. They no longer really give out the original, what we call the original boosters. So when you go get a booster now, it's going to be called the bivalent. So I wanted to just show you what the portal looks like in a lot of private vaccine appointments. So literally Google, get a COVID-19 booster, CVS, Walgreens, Rite Aid, whatever is available locally. You are going to have to put in your health insurance, your name, everything like that. But when you come to this screen, what you're going to click, next please, Maggie, is the booster. They call it 4 different things, which is very annoying, which is why I brought this to your attention. So if you go to CVS, they call it your bivalent booster dose. If you go to Rite Aid, they call it an updated COVID-19 booster. If you go to the government website, they call them the updated vaccines. And if you go to Walgreens, they call them the COVID-19 additional dose or booster. So any of those wordings are the booster. Just pick carefully when you're going through. If you have questions, please call before you make an appointment and make sure that you're getting a booster dose when you get there. Also, please get your flu shot. You can get them at the same time. So that is our COVID-19 minute. We are boosting the booster.
Absolutely. Thank
Thank
you
you so
so very much, man.
Wow.
And, absolutely wonderful. That's and it's about information you can use. And so we try to bring you really practical things that you can do. We got some of our regulars out there in the space. Let me go and see if I can bring on a couple of people, introduce you all to our family. And we really call it family. Attorney James, I'm going to bring you up just to say hello, because I want to bring up everybody, but let me bring up a couple of people. Katrina, I want to see if you can become camera ready. Bring Katrina Randolph up. Want to say hello to Michelle Lamb.
Hey, Michelle Lamb.
Ohio.
Shout out.
Cincinnati. I want to shout out to her as well. So everybody, if you can bring your cameras up, I know that you're ready to hang out with us. Hey, how you doing, Katrina Randolph? They call her the short hair queen. How are you doing?
I am great. I'm enjoying this conversation. As Ms. Sharon said, always, we take home some great information every night. And it's amazing that we're having this conversation, because sitting here listening, I was thinking about how often my clients are really starting to expose, what they're feeling as far as their mental health is concerned, especially since the pandemic. A lot of people are talking more freely about their mental health, and especially in the chair. And what I like most about it, they're coming where they trust. They're coming to their stylists and barbers and really having a conversation with us about what they're experiencing. And we're able to give them sound advice. They're not even going to the medical professional first. They come in straight to us because they know it is a place where we care. It's a place where they can get sound advice, although we're not the medical professionals. But I can appreciate them coming to us and really expressing what they really feel. It says a lot about how they feel about us as their stylists and barbers. So I'm forever grateful to be on this call tonight and sharing this conversation, because now I can take some new information back to those clients when they expose what they're feeling, spiritually, mentally, psychologically. And I was just talking to a client today. And one of the things that I said to her, I said, well, let me say this to you. Before you go see the medical professional, I want you to take a 30-day sabbatical. And I want you to really tap into your emotions, your mental health and your physical health. I said, and take note. So when you go to the medical professional, you can be open and you can be honest to be able to share what you're really feeling in order to get the help that you need. So once again, I'm forever grateful. This is a great topic behind the chair right now.
Absolutely.
People are seeking that help.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna tell you
Thank
one
you for
thing.
having me.
we trust our stylists and our barbers. I promise you that. You have our life in your hands.
You
I'm
got
telling
that.
you. Absolutely. Let me just say hello to Attorney Crystal James. She said she just wanted to come and just kind of sit in and just kind of observe, but I'm not gonna let you do that. You got Booker T behind you. He'd be mad with me. How you doing, Attorney James?
I am awesome. Greetings and salutations to everyone. I really want to listen on this amazing topic and to give a shameless plug and shout out to Dr. Thomas, who's going to be our featured speaker for our scholarship convocation this weekend. And because I'm going to have to miss it, I want to come and give us some love and make sure everybody know and that they come if they're in town and tune into the YouTube, because she's going to bless the institution, as she's not only a former graduate, she's a former Miss Tuskegee, and she's going to
absolutely.
come back and talk about scholarship and service with our scholarship recipients this weekend. So just want to shout her out and show her some love since I can't be there. And it's always a pleasure to be amongst family. I'm just gonna call y'all family.
Absolutely.
And I thought I was just gonna listen. I didn't really need to come in on this side, but I'm happy that I'm here.
Absolutely. So good to have you. You're doing a great job at Tuskegee University. She heads up all of the COVID efforts at Tuskegee University. So she's very important to the topic that we're discussing regularly. Say thank you so much, Attorney Crystal James, Tuskegee University. I'd love to say that. That's just cool.
Mayor, you talk about family as people come up, and I want our guests to know, sometimes today we got an email, a text from Dorothy Reynolds out there in Pine Bluffs, Arkansas. Hey, Dr. T, I got a funeral I'm going to, I may be late. Look at her here. And my point is, that's how they feel about these Thursday nights. Hey, Dorothy, I'm so glad you were able to make it. You got to unmute yourself, Dorothy. You got to unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Yeah, she knows. She's a pro at
There
this.
she go.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. How you doing? In
I'm
Pine
doing pretty
Bluff,
good.
Arkansas. You have to make sure you say that, Dr. T. Don't
You
get her
right.
confused.
I'm Dorothy Reynolds from Pine Bluff, Arkansas. UAPB, University of Arkansas, AM and N if you're old school.
So what's going on down there? Just kind of give us a snippets of what's happening down in Arkansas, and what's your thoughts about the
Well,
conversation?
our chancellor who grew up on the campus, because his father was the chancellor for over 70 years, our ex-chancellor passed on this past Saturday. And he was able to be the grand marshal in the homecoming parade. And he became ill after that, and he was in intensive care for a short while, and he passed. So his funeral is this coming Saturday. Visitation is Friday. And we're in the Davis family, so we've been preparing for that.
Good.
But in our barbershop, one of the things, I was talking to one of the instructors at what's called the Arkansas River Education Cooperative. It's a collection of all the school districts representatives that come together to make a co-op. And I was speaking with one of the instructors there, and I was telling her about COVID and what we have been doing in our shops. And she asked me, could I help her with an essay contest? And I asked, she explained what she's looking for. So I committed to conduct this essay contest in our salon, with a barbershop, with the students that come in there age 10 through 15. And they will read them and make a decision on who should win. So the barbers agreed to give them free haircuts. The winner.
That's wonderful. Always creative, kind of doing your thing. We do appreciate you. All right, let me see. We're running on time. Let's go to at the ATL. and bring up Andre Russell. He's the brother that has a barbershop in the busiest airport in the world. That's in Atlanta, Georgia, and it is the busiest airport in the world. And he has a barbershop inside the airport, not outside up the street. Okay.
Hey, Andre.
Hey, what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm trying to catch up on being the busiest barbershop in the world, but haven't gotten there yet. But I'm listening to all this talent here today, and I don't know if I can communicate or relate to my customers or my barbers, because we got so much talent here today where I'm wondering if I spend enough money on my sons. And we got everybody here. We're talking about cognitive brain health. We should be talking about dementia and whatever else is going on, because we have all the talent here today.
Yeah, you know, you raised the question, and I want to talk. Does anybody know about dementia? And because that's huge, Alzheimer's and dementia and that kind of thing, and it's happening younger too.
Right.
They're seeing signs of it younger. I didn't want to take your thunder, but you did mention something that's very important, Andre. Go.
Well, no, that's a good thing, because part of the reason that I brought it up was because it's one of the things that I'm trying to get past. I knew now we're working on boosters and whatnot, and through Emory we're doing the dementia and whatnot, and so that's going to be a new concentration. So that's kind of where we are on that, and I'm looking for some money from Emory, but you know, that's another thing.
Well, you can always call Dr. T. Dr. T balling and shot calling, man.
Wait. We've mentioned this once or twice before, and I have asked Dr. T, and guess what? Guess who's not returning my emails?
You was good when you wasn't asking for no money.
That's right.
Money, they start looking at call ID. All right, let's go to Stacy Ruffin. Let's go up to the Philadelphia area.
And while Stacy's
hello.
Hey,
Hi, I'm late for the Sixers home opening now. I was listening to you. We were stuck in traffic.
So you in traffic? You're on your way to the Sixers home opening because you got courtside seats. Right next to the players.
I do, but I just want, when you were, I know I'm almost there because we were stuck in traffic, but when you were talking about dementia and Alzheimer's and things like that, I'm so glad you brought that up, because at my wellness center that I opened, that's what I teach the seniors that I teach now about reading papers, doing things like that, because dementia is the loss of cells in the brain, and they have no answer for it. So at my wellness center, I teach them to do current things, because they have no answer for it. They don't know when it's coming. And these are things I teach them about: memory, about doing an exercise, working out and doing an exercise, because they have no clue about where it's coming from. Like my dad was 97 and he didn't have Alzheimer's or dementia. I have a client that did, he has all her, no dementia, no Alzheimer's or anything. And so that's something that we, that's great to just, for any seniors and anybody over 50, I say. It's good to work on everyday memory, so and I've been doing that, but I wanted to throw in about the mental illness. We were discussing, I just came back from Turks and Caicos 2 days with a group of women, I was so proud to be with them. It was 22 women. Every last one of us were millionaires and Black. And it was and mental illness was the number one thing we were discussing. So it's real. And it's a real thing where people, they own trucking companies. These ladies own Phoenix Suites. They own so many things, and they were all, I was the only one from Philly, but they were all from New York, California, all over. But mental illness was the number one thing we were talking about. And they were saying about society. So these are things I'm glad y'all was talking about. I'm sorry because I'm about to get out the car. But
Yeah,
I listened
go
to the
go
whole
ahead, go
Yes.
Sixers, go Sixers.
Yes.
Yeah, you go, we love you,
That's my
love you,
husband,
Stacey.
Sixer.
Boy, I'm
Okay,
telling you.
I want to say bye to everybody. And the Eagles is 6-0. That's all I wanted to say today. And
Yeah, well, you know, you got Alabama's quarterback, so that's the only reason why y'all winning. All right, let's hold up, Dr. T. You know, we got to rush this. We got 10 minutes, right? Now, Dr. Jones, you and Dr. Thomas, and I want to bring in Mr. Kennebrew and Sharon. We need Sandra. We need to bring you in now. Let's talk a little bit about what's happening with Alzheimer's and dementia.
Can I add?
Hold up! No. We don't have time. I'm trying to get this through at this juncture.
Andre, put it in the text.
Put it in text, and I'll try to get to it. But I really need to stop and do this. There's so many people who are experiencing this, the trauma of even caring for people.
Yes, caregivers
with Alzheimer's and dementia. It's also an issue that we don't talk about. I want y'all to help to unpack that and kind of help me with that. We don't have but 9 minutes. Go ahead.
Who you calling on, Omar?
I'll call with Dr. Jones and then Dr. Thomas.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in on this topic because I have spent quite a bit of time doing geropsych, working with elderly patients in long-term care facilities. And that was definitely the primary place where I treated patients that had dementia. And the thing about it, the previous speaker was right, Stacey, about once you've been diagnosed, it's very difficult to kind of reverse that. They do have medications that can help stop the progression of the dementia. But dementia is basically a broad category for a neurocognitive disorder involving a loss of your cognitive abilities. So it could range from your memories may not be clear. It can also sometimes affect your behavior. So you may have elderly persons, and not all of them are elderly because dementia can be caused by different illnesses like Parkinson's disease, also alcohol-related dementia, HIV untreated can cause dementia. So there's various causes for dementia, but sometimes you'll have persons that not only aren't aware of short-term memory, so they don't remember who they're talking to or what today's date is, or a lot of times I'll be asking questions about who's the president. They may remember some historical things from their childhood and may have memories there, but the current day-to-day events they're not aware of. So it's this loss of awareness. A lot of them are not able to take care of their activities of daily living. And so then they require a caregiver. And of course, the ones that I was treating, a lot of times their needs were beyond what a caregiver could provide. And so they would end up at a long-term care facility where you would have the CNAs and treatment team working, but it's a variety of, so not every person that has dementia has behavioral disturbances, but there are some where people will have what they call sundowning symptoms, where as soon as the sun kind of sets, that's when they get activated and start wandering and staying up late. So it can be very taxing on the family members that are trying to care for an elderly member that has dementia, because a lot of times they need constant supervision so that they don't hurt themselves.
Wow.
Yeah. Dr. Thomas, you want to chime in on that, and we're gonna end up with we're gonna go to you, Sandra, to kind of talk from the vantage point of the wellness warriors and what this means in terms of the knowledge that you all are getting and how to be able to transfer this knowledge to. And we're gonna let you have the last word, Royce, today. Okay. Go ahead, Dr. Thomas.
I just simply want to come from a personal place. Actually, the reason why I'm sitting in my vehicle right now is because I'm a caregiver for my 71-year-old mother who has mild or early signs of dementia. Wow. And I want to just simply speak to the importance of our community having this conversation, because there are a lot of people suffering in silence. And this is actually something that I'm struggling with personally, that I'm actually, even though I'm a professor, you know, I'm a counselor by discipline and training, I'm actually having to seek counseling services and talk to social workers and the healthcare professionals and doctors, a part of a interdisciplinary team to help my mom. And I also am responsible for my father, who is 84, who lives in Mississippi. So my mom's in Georgia, my dad's in Mississippi, I'm in Alabama, and I'm their primary, as their daughter, the person who manages their care. And so from a mental health perspective, just coming out of the pandemic, I would be remiss if I didn't just simply say, because there are a lot of people suffering out there, it's really important to have conversations like this one that shares information with people who could be contending with this, but even the caregivers themselves, just to advocate for them to receive care as well, and to seek out the services that they need, because that lived experience of caring for another that you love as they decline and diminish is just hard work. And so, again, I'd be remiss if I didn't say in this space how important it is for us to also support caregivers and encourage them in self-care, as well as they care for others. And the ways in which that can happen are vast, but I just wanted to come from a personal place right now, because that's my lived experience. What Sister Jones, Dr. Jones just spoke to is exactly what I'm living. And I'm actually on my way driving from Georgia to Alabama, because just in the last 48 hours, went to visit my mom to give care and to take care of her. And it's reminding me that I need to schedule a counseling session with my therapist soon to do exactly what it is that I think I was inspired to come and share with everyone tonight, that we're a community. And so we have to empower and lift one another up and encourage one another to have this information. But at the very least, say the things that we need to hear, because physicians don't heal themselves.
Yeah.
Other physicians help to heal. And so even if it's encouraging your family members who are caregivers to take a break, or giving them a night off so that they can get a really good night's sleep, those are the kinds of things that we need to stand in the gap to help people, help those of us who are elders in the community. And I just wanted to say, I'm so encouraged just by the fact that you all mentioned this. This is blessing me, even though I'm here to participate. I just want to thank you all for this opportunity.
We have to love our caregivers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Sandra, we got 2 minutes now, but I want you to, because let me thank the stylists and the barbers, because when you think about it, you all are kind of all things to all people, right? You all have to navigate many spaces, and as Dr. Thomas was saying, you have to learn to take care of yourself too, and so just a few words from you concerning that.
Yeah, I would like to express that at the end of the day, I feel all people want to engage with someone who beautifies many people on a given day. That it takes a lot of engagement and understanding of one's circumstances to be able to provide the service simultaneously. And as trusted, unbiased, safe spaces for our clients, when they sit in our chairs, that is how they feel.
Mm-hmm.
And that means so much to us. our clients, building the relationship with us, and working with them in their experiences, that they have with their doctors or with their places of worship. It's very similar to what we do.
Absolutely.
We're there to provide a service and to make someone feel good about themselves. So as barbers and stylist professionals, if we can help someone deeper than the outer skirts of one's being, I feel we can mirror the Hippocratic Oath within our own profession to be the front line to make a difference in the lives of others and in our communities.
Thank you so much. We're running a little over, but I can't go nowhere without letting my brother say something. One is the ghetto grave dodger. Man, just spit some knowledge, man, and let's get out of here.
I believe that we are in a trauma epidemic. I think that the pandemic has caused it. A lot of the maladies that we see with the violence with around the country and some of the issues that we're having is because of trauma. So the trauma-informed care, you can determine, the anxiety, depression, sadness, sleep issues, the pain that people have talked about in the neck, the back, the stomach. Some of these things can be caused by trauma. So that's an identifier for us to go out and get some treatment. Last thing, I'll be in the DMV area coming in January and December. I'll be at Blacks National Alliance of Black School Educators in Maryland. And then I'll be at Howard University speaking to some teachers in a program that Howard has. And I'll be speaking for the government in January as well for MLK program. So
good deal.
Look me up.
Absolutely, man. Love you so much. Let's give everybody snaps. I mean,
Come on now.
Like
What a show.
What a show. What a show. Dr. T, love you, man. This has been incredible. To the team behind the scene, wonderful. All of our wellness warriors, wonderful. We got attorney Crystal James. That's what you call a bonus. That's like icing on the cake and all of that, right? And Dr. Sharon Cooper, thank you so much for what you do. Dr. Carol Ritter, Katrina Randolph, Dorothy Reynolds, everybody that was a part of it. I don't want to miss anybody because I know if you do that,
Andre dropping knowledge.
Andre Russell got to do that. Michelle Lamb up in Cincinnati, all of those people who made all of this happen today. Let me say this: we are our brother's keeper.
That's right.
We are required to do whatever we can to help people. I've said this before, that love is an acronym. It's leaving others very encouraged.
All right.
And today, I feel love from you because I am encouraged by this conversation. As always, I'd like to leave you with these two words. Remember that I love you with a perfect love. But more importantly, remember, you got the power. Thank you for joining with us on The Cutting Edge Show, where we talk about all things COVID-19, wellness, and beyond. Till the next time, have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. The pandemic's not over.
Right.